The world is huge. It's filled with people. So many different kinds of people. But here, in this small town, there are only two kinds of folks. There are those who love the woods and those who don't. I am 13 years old, and I love the woods. I know every tree and stream and creature that stirs beneath the leaves. These woods are part of my heart. And so it was one sweltering hot summer morning, when I heard a splash in the stream and saw a pair of bright eyes staring at me from beneath a bush, that I knew something had changed. For there sat a boy unlike anyone I'd ever seen. He was dressed all in green, from his shirt to his trousers to his cap. His eyes were the color of sunlit snow, and he held a long pole with a strange head like an oversized badminton racket. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Oh, hello yourself," he said, and his voice sounded as bright as his eyes. "My name is Will. What's yours?" "I don't have one," I told him. "Most folks around here call me Maddie." "Well, Maddie," he said, standing up, "I'm looking for a rare white heron that frequents these parts. Have you seen it?" I shook my head. Never having seen a heron of any kind, let alone a rare white one, I knew exactly what I should do. That is, make myself scarce. I turned and ran into the trees, deeper and deeper, until I finally stopped beside a cool, gurgling brook. There I sat on a flat stone and watched the water flow over smooth, round pebbles, until I heard a familiar splashing. Will came bounding along the bank and spotted me. "Maddie," he called out, "I'm sorry to intrude upon you, but I couldn't help but notice you watching me. Is there something on my face?" He stood there, scratching his head, and I wanted to tell him there was nothing on his face, that it was just the way the light fell across his features. But I was too shy. Instead, I just kept quiet and stared at the water. He took a deep breath. "Listen, Matty, I hate to bother you, but if you could lead me to that white heron, I would be eternally grateful. It's not just a bird to me. You see, my father made me promise to bring back its feathers for my mother. They say a woman's love can be rekindled by the touch of such a magical beast. Now, although I had never seen a white heron, I had certainly seen plenty of herons. And even though I'd never been so much as spoken to by another boy before, much less one who looked at me like Will looked at me, I knew I wanted to help him. And so I got up, brushed some twigs off my dress, and said, "I know where we can find one." Will beamed at me. "Thank you, Maddie. Which way?" I pointed ahead of us along the bank. "That way." Will grinned. "Then lead on, good sir." So saying, I led him along the river, past mossy boulders and over fallen logs. We walked in silence for a time, and then Will said, "Why didn't you tell me your last name?" "I don't have one," I said again. "Like I told you before, most folks around here call me Maddie." "I suppose you're named after a flower," he said. "I suppose I am," I replied. We walked on in silence again, and I stole glances at Will, trying to decide if I liked him or not. He seemed nice, but I worried that someone like him wouldn't want to spend time with someone like me. Soon enough, though, we reached a spot where the river widened and curved back on itself, forming a still pool surrounded by tall trees. And there, perched on the branch of a dead tree, sat the most beautiful bird I'd ever seen. Its feathers were the color of fresh fallen snow, and its eyes shone like polished jet. A kingfisher, which had been perched on a nearby branch, took flight and screamed at the top of its lungs, giving us our answer. The heron took off, flapping its great wings and squawking loudly. I broke into a run and Will followed close behind. Soon enough, we were neck and neck, racing along the bank as the bird flew over our heads. It landed on the bank of a small stream, and Will called out, "There it is, Maddie. Please, please throw your cloak over it. Just for a moment." But I couldn't move. I didn't want to hurt the bird. Not only had it shown us where to find herons, but I'd felt a kinship with it that I hadn't felt with anyone or anything before. Will frowned. "Matty, why don't you throw your cloak over it?" "I don't want to," I whispered, afraid he'd think I was crazy. "What?" he asked incredulously. "I don't want to hurt the bird," I said. "She's beautiful. Why would you want to hurt her?" Will suddenly looked down at his feet. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I asked you to do that, Maddie. To be honest, I really didn't expect anyone to be willing to help me find that bird. It's very rare. And truth be told, I was hoping to surprise my father by bringing back its feathers. But now I realize that wouldn't have been right. So what are you gonna do?" I asked. "Honestly," he said, looking back up at me, "I don't know. I suppose I'll just go home and tell my father that he'll just have to wait a little longer for my mother's gift. Maybe someday I'll find a way to make her happy again, but it won't be like this." A slow smile spread across my face. Will looked at me curiously and then turned away, a blush rising on his cheeks. We stood there awkwardly for a moment, and then I decided to break the silence. "Do you want to hear a secret?" Will nodded. I took a deep breath and said, "I've never had a last name before because I've never needed one. All the folks around here just call me Maddie." He looked back at me and smiled. "Well, Maddie, maybe you need a last name because maybe you're leaving this place. Would you like to come live with me in the city? We could be a family." I stared back at him, surprised by his proposal. Could I really leave my home and everything I'd ever known? The thought both frightened and excited me. Seeing my uncertainty, Will reached out and squeezed my hand. "Don't worry, Maddie," he said. "You don't have to decide right now. Take all the time you need." And as he looked at me with those bright, earnest eyes, I knew I didn't want all the time in the world. I wanted to be with him right here, right now. And so I did the only thing I could do. I threw my arms around his neck and hugged him as tight as I could. He was even softer than I expected, like the first bloom of spring. When I pulled away, he was smiling, and he looked like he might burst with happiness. "Yes," I whispered. "I want to come with you." He grinned from ear to ear. "Oh, Maddie," he said, scooping me up in his arms and twirling me around. "You won't regret this decision." And as he held me close, I knew I wouldn't. But I also knew that my choice had come at a great cost. For as I left the woods behind me, I left something else behind as well. The white heron. She watched us from atop a tree as we walked away, her eyes shining with understanding. I looked back at her and gave her a little wave. Now, some folks might say that I made the right choice, that choosing Will was better than choosing the white heron. But I'll always wonder if the woods would have been a better place without me. And that's the story of the choice that changed everything.